Hey everybody in the digital world, welcome back once again to another episode of Spliced In Later. A bit later in the week than usual, I apologise for that. If you're one of those few people that's anxiously waiting for a new Spliced In Later every Tuesday, as explained last week, the movie that I wanted to review for you, I wasn't able to see until later in the week, and then the day that I was seeing the movie was a big day for me TV-wise in terms of a lot of TV shows I like to watch, one of which I'll be talking about on this show in a couple of weeks. So I thought, luckily the Easter weekend's coming. So here we are on Good Friday, or if you're in America, not Good Friday, but almost there. And we're here with our Spliced In Later review. And it's one I think a lot of people are interested about, whether they are interested to see the movie itself, or they are just interested to hear what people have to say about the movie. A movie that has been steeped in controversy from the moment the cast was announced, to publicity tours, to the reputation of previous attempts to adapt this source material, a particularly infamous movie in the 90s, which, I don't know, apparently people looking back on now are appreciating with maybe a bit more love, becoming a cult classic. I really don't know. A movie that's designed for kids, but also is aimed on a product that means a lot to a lot of people of all ages. Something that's been around for ages and ages and ages. From an animation department that's given us such banger hits like Minions: The Rise of Gru, and then also Hop. So here we are finally for our last review for a couple of weeks here on Spliced In Later. We are doing the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, however you want to say it. If you just want to call it Mario, I don't care. An animated movie starring, of all people, Chris Pratt as the voice of Mario, along with a pretty interesting voice cast, including Charlie Day as Luigi, Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, Jack Black as Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, and Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. I've been excited to watch this movie. The Mario movie was one of those movies I added onto my list to see, even though I didn't really have a desire, or not a desire, I should say. I did want to see it, but it wasn't something I was anxious to see. Kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog when it came out a couple years ago in 2020. I had no real connection to Sonic the Hedgehog. I was aware of the property, but I barely played the games. I've never seen any of the TV shows really, or any of the lore. I went specifically because I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, and Jim Carrey was playing Dr. Robotnik in that. So I went and saw that. But I think that helped in my overall experience for Sonic, because I quite like those movies. And I've spoken to fellow friends who are big Sonic fans, and they're torn on how they feel about the movie in terms of its respect to Sonic lore, that it strays too far into its own thing, that they've got ridiculous human characters, all of the stuff that I've gone into deeply in my Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie reviews, if you want to go check those out. So Mario is kind of like that for me, but maybe a little bit more towards knowledge of the product. I remember Mario. I know the lore of Mario to an extent, based on playing all the Mario games as a kid on Game Boy and Super Mario and on Nintendo 64. But aside from that, it's from party games with my friends, playing Mario Party or Mario Kart. I think the one on Nintendo Switch, Mario Kart 8, used to play that a lot over the last couple of years. And that's where I really learned characters' names. I learned about Wario and Waluigi. Side note, Waluigi is my most favorite thing ever. Every time I play Mario Kart, I always play as Waluigi. He's an absolute joke. He's a freak. He is a weirdo. And I absolutely love him. And it infuriates a lot of my friends that when they say, what's your favorite Mario character? If I answer with Waluigi, apparently that's just not a correct answer. But here we are. I don't care. Waluigi for life. If there's a Super Mario 2, you got to bring that guy in. I don't care how. Fun fact, Waluigi is not related to Luigi in any sense of the word. That's how ridiculous he is. Fantastic stuff. So, I liked playing with my friends. I liked that connection. And I think the Mario world is interesting. I don't think there's a lot there in terms of story. I think Mario has been always very basic. Mario's got to rescue the princess from Bowser. He's got to go through the things and do it. Now, I could be wrong. I got to say right off the bat here, I don't know that much about the history of Mario games and lore, and that I know very little about, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games or Luigi's Mansion or anything like that. What I know specifically from party games or those old Mario games, the very, very old ones. So if I say anything here that's like, that's not correct to Mario lore, I apologize. I just don't know. So cut me some slack. Anyway, what also implored me to see this movie is just everything that's been going on since the moment it was announced. I think it was a few years ago. They announced that the Super Mario Brothers movie was coming. It was going to be animated from Illumination Entertainment, and they announced the cast. And the cast was just like, what? Chris Pratt as the voice of Mario, an Italian plumber, just was like, what? And then you look at the time, it was like Jack Black as Bowser, what? Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. There's a very famous YouTube video, I believe, of somebody who's watching the cast announced, and he's just losing his mind. He's laughing so much at imagining the actors' voices against those characters. And when he gets to Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, he just absolutely loses his mind. The main basis, of course, the controversy being is Chris Pratt as Mario. Why couldn't you get, I think it's Charles Martinet. I apologize if I've said his name wrong. The original Mario actor. Why can't he do it? He's constantly voicing Mario in current games up to now. Why can't he do it? And then watching the press tours and the lack of Chris Pratt Mario voice. His first couple of trailers, you couldn't hear him speak that much. And then when he did, it just sounded like Chris Pratt talking. But then you also had some positivity on the other side. You heard Jack Black as Bowser for the first time, and you were like, that's actually pretty good. And then you see Jack Black dressed up as Bowser at that Kelly Clarkson interview, and you're like, okay, this guy's really taking it seriously. Keegan-Michael Key, surprisingly, doesn't sound like himself when he voiced Toad, which is incredible. But then you have a knock the other direction. Chris Pratt's in London, and he's posting to his TikTok or Instagram, whatever, with a little Mario doll, and he's like talking in his Mario voice. It doesn't sound right. So, out of curiosity more than anything, I wanted to see this movie. And disclaimer, I did not hold it to a very high standard. As I said with Sonic, I don't care that much if Mario is faithful to whatever lore it is. I don't really care if the voices don't match exactly what's been done before. As long as it's a good story and an entertaining movie, I will probably like it. And that disassociation with the product may even lead to me loving it in a way that I like the Sonic movies a lot more than I think standard Sonic fans do. So now I've seen the movie, and I have to say, unfortunately, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it either. It's the worst movie I've seen this year, but that's not particularly fair because I haven't seen that many movies. But for me, it was boring. I think that's the way for me to summarize it. I could not get invested in the movie, and I went to the perfect experience to see it because I went to a full theater with a lot of kids and families who, to their credit, seemed to be having fun, but I'm not sure if they were having fun because the movie was good or because they were just out with all their friends. But it was in a very receptive movie theater, so it wasn't like I went by myself in a dead silent theater where I was very aware of the time or anything. Just for me specifically, I could not really click with anything that was going on, and I've narrowed it down to a few points which I think doesn't work for specifically me, but might work for a larger audience, because the reviews are split right now at the middle. If you go to Rotten Tomatoes, if you go on if you go on the internet or whatever, there's a huge difference. I think some people are giving it really positive reviews, some people are giving it really negative reviews, and some people like me are probably right down the middle. Although I'd say I'm right down the middle, more to the negative side, which I think is going to come out here. It's really dividing people on how they react to it. And interestingly, unlike Sonic, I think fans of Mario are tending to like it more, and people who do not know specifically every single thing that's ever happened in Mario, every character, every reference, every nod to lore, are like me and not really clicking with it. Because at the heart of the issue here is that there isn't really a story to latch onto. But we'll get to that. Anyway, if you don't know anything about the Super Mario Brothers movie and you want a quick rundown, basically what happens in this movie is Mario and Luigi are Italian-American plumbers who live in Brooklyn. They are brothers. They want to start their plumbing business, but no one takes them seriously. Mario really wants to be seen as the savior of Brooklyn or something like that. I don't know. He's the more confident of the two. Luigi's very, very insecure and shy and relies on his brother. Then accidentally one day they fall down a pipe, get split up, and land in the Super Nintendo world. Mario lands in the Mushroom Kingdom. Luigi lands on Bowser's Evil Dark Palace. What's currently happening at the moment is that Bowser, he's on the warpath. He's picked up a superstar from some kingdom, and he's headed to the Mushroom Kingdom where Princess Peach reigns to ask for her hand in marriage, whether she kind of wants it or not, because he's desperately in love with her and destroying everything in his way as he goes. Mario is not like a chosen one thing. He's not destined to stop Bowser. He sort of just shows up, and Princess Peach goes, okay, yeah, sure, you can come along. He wants to save Luigi. That's his driving force. So him and Peach and Toad, they then travel around. They go to the Jungle Kingdom where Donkey Kong's hanging out to basically round up some sort of army that can fight against Bowser before he arrives. And it will all come to a head at the end where everybody faces off with Bowser for the fate of not just the Mushroom Kingdom, but probably the fate of all kingdoms everywhere. That's basically it. That's the basic story. There's not that much more to it, to be honest. Let's start with what I liked. It's a fine movie, and I think it's very well animated and faithful to the Nintendo style. Just recently, Super Nintendo World opened at Universal Studios. It's a very frustrating thing for me because I was there at Universal Studios in October, for my last America trip, and I could see it being built. When you go down those giant escalators down to Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, whatever it's called now, the Mummy, Transformers, you could see Super Nintendo World being built, and it just looked incredible. And you got down there, and it's like, on the other side of this wall is Super Nintendo World coming 2023. It was just within my grasp and I couldn't get there. It's kind of like when I went to Disneyland in 2018 and Star Wars Land was being built, and you could see it. And you also had the same sign in front of you that's like, it's coming, just not right now. It's like, but I'm here now. And now, as you go on TikTok and everything, it's open to the public and everybody's there, and it just looks like an incredible place. The Nintendo world in this movie looks and feels incredible. The Mushroom Kingdom itself feels like Disneyland of sorts. There's some really, really cool animation style, which I think reflects the games and the vibes of Mario very, very, very well. I also think, for the most part, the soundtrack is great. There's some really good music riffs on famous Mario themes, Bowser's theme, Donkey Kong, all of those things, and it really heightens the intensity and mood and set pieces that you're watching to a point where I was listening to that soundtrack on the way home. However, a side note to that, Mario also falls into the trap that a lot of movies do, where they just play songs that aren't really supplementing what you're watching. They're just like, here's a song happening now with this thing. It's not like, not many movies can do it. Guardians of the Galaxy is one of those few movies that incorporates the 80s music into what you're watching on screen. The music that's playing is vital to the mood, to the setup of that scene. There's a scene in here where Mario and Peach arrive at the Jungle Cruise Kingdom, and a monkey gets him in a cart and takes him to see Donkey Kong. And Take On Me is playing while that's happening. Not particularly at the forefront or in the background, it's just sort of on there. And that takes you out. When you take those real world songs and you play them in this fantastical Nintendo land, it doesn't quite fit. But even before they get to the Mushroom Kingdom land, Mario's running around to No Sleep Till Brooklyn, I think from Sabotage, maybe? Don't really know music, I apologize. But again, it's sort of like, why is this song on in a Mario movie? I don't know. That's the stuff I liked. In terms of the rest of my enjoyment, I honestly, I was unable to hook into it. And the big issue I think that this movie has for average moviegoers is that there's not much of a story here to hook onto, and there's not much of a main character to get behind. In terms of the story is stuff we've seen many times before. A fish out of water situation where a guy is in an unknown place. He's got to save somebody close to him against an unstoppable enemy, meet some funny friends, some that he doesn't get along with straight away, but will eventually form a bond and step up to the plate and be the hero that everybody expects him to be. Now, to the movie's credit, As I said, I don't know that much about Mario history, but from what I can remember from original Mario games, there wasn't that much story there aside from the basic premise. Mario must save the princess. If you play those old Game Boy games, he just runs through a level, jumps to a flag, goes in the castle. Peach isn't here. Do it again. And even the Super Mario on the Nintendo 64, you collect stars and you go to different worlds to collect stars, but the primary goal is just Peach has been kidnapped by Bowser. You got to go in, you got to grab Bowser by his tail and throw him off the thing. And that's that. So, yeah, maybe they didn't have a lot to work with in that department, but I think their priorities got mixed up here. The priority for this movie, and that's some of the positives that I think Mario fans are giving this, is the primary focus here is references. It's things from the Nintendo world that people will remember, and they're all sort of packed onto each other in specific set pieces that don't necessarily flow onto each other, but they do that thing which a lot of movies do. It's not just Mario, where the focus isn't on actually telling a cohesive story that makes sense. It's about chucking in things that will set off the endorphins in people's brains that will go, I remember that thing, therefore because I know what that thing is, I like it, whether it's there or not. Whether it's servicing the story or not. For example, there's a scene in this movie where Mario and friends have to go from one place to another, so they're going to get in their carts and they're going to drive along the Rainbow Bridge. That's fine. It's a good. It's a point in the story. It has meaning. Bowser's crew attacks, and then it's just moves and things from the game. You know, blue shells, red shells, sort of things, which if you've played the video games, you'll be like, cool, I remember this. Oh no, here comes the blue shell. But if you're a regular moviegoer here, if you've never seen Mario or anything, you'll just be like, okay, right, how does that work? Oh, it doesn't matter, we're moving on to the next thing. How does that work? Oh, it doesn't matter, we're moving on to the next thing. Then a giant eel shows up. I don't know if the eel is from Mario or not, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't stick around long enough for it to really mean anything because we're moving on to the next reference. When Mario is facing off against Donkey Kong, the King Kong, Cranky Kong, whatever his name is, he says, everybody get ready for the fight, and then he just points to a monkey and goes, shut up, Diddy Kong, and then it focuses on Diddy Kong, and he's like, oh, and then they go back to it. If you're a fan of Mario lore and stuff, you'll be like, oh, Diddy Kong, cool. But if you don't know who he is, it has 2 points. Either you'll think, okay, Diddy Kong will become a character that's relevant to the story, or you'll just go, that was weird. In my opinion, to do something like that effectively, you could have had Diddy Kong, you could show a scene that just shows Diddy Kong, a quick flash, there he is in the crowd. People who know who he is will go, cool. But the movie does this specifically here, and a lot of places, they point directly at Diddy Kong and go, look everybody, Diddy Kong. Have you clocked him? Have you seen him? Good. Check that off your Mario bingo, move on to the next thing. And you've got stuff like that with Dry Bones, Baby Mario and Luigi, Yoshi's dinosaur things, specific toads, a flaming kid that speaks of death. There's a lot of that in here, which I don't mind necessarily, as long as it's backed by a story that's holding my interest so that stuff doesn't stand out for me. It's not just the story's fault though. Mario as a character fails for me. And here we get to the Chris Pratt controversy. Now, as I said at the start, I don't care really that much if Chris Pratt is voicing Mario, as long as he does a good job. He doesn't have to imitate Charles Martinet. He doesn't have to do that. If he wants to do his own thing, that's okay. To an extent. The movie does piss me off a little bit, and it might do the same for you. The first time we see Mario and Luigi is an advertisement they're running on TV for their plumbing business. Now, I don't know if Charles Martinet is doing the voice for Mario and Luigi in that scene, or if Chris Pratt and Charlie Day are putting on Italian Mario and Luigi voices. Whatever the case, in that advertisement, they sound perfect. And I was like, okay, cool. They're really putting the effort in to do these voices right. This is going to be good. I like it. It sounds okay. I'm on board. The ad ends. It pulls back. Mario and Luigi are watching it. They turn to each other and they talk. And they talk in like these Italian Brooklyn accents. Very specifically, Chris Pratt's putting on a real Brooklyn Matt Damon. How do you like them apples from Good Will Hunting? and they're like, are the accents too much? And then the real Charles Martinet is voicing another character nearby, and he's like, no, wahoo! I don't know if that's intended to be funny, but it's kind of like, and I don't know if Mario fans can agree with me here, but it's like them going, this is what you wanted, but you're not getting it. Deal with it. And then you're sort of like, what does that mean? Is that you flipping off the audience? Is it you going, we couldn't do that voice substantially? Is it not politically correct to do that voice? It's freaking Mario. Who cares? So that started me off on a bad mood. But then I let it go to allow myself to enjoy the movie. But Mario as a whole, Chris Pratt's energy, his vibe for him as Mario is so flat. Especially when you remember that this is the guy who voiced Emmett from the Lego movie. A very, very sweet, kind, but also erratic and crazy Lego character that completely emphasized what it meant to live in the Lego world. If you were a regular guy, you'd still have those wacky Lego mannerisms. You'd have to live in the Lego world. Mario, his delivery on everything, whether he's worried about Luigi, whether he's falling in love with Peach, whether he's scared of Bowser, he's just like, okay, let's go. I'm gonna do this thing now. Oh no, I've been beaten. I'm sad, but I will rise up to the occasion. Now I am happy. I don't like you, Donkey Kong. I guess I do now. It's just so monotone. It puts you to sleep. There's nothing there. And I don't know if that's Chris Pratt not caring. I don't know if he's been directed to do it that way. I will never know. But I'm interested to see what other people think, because for me specifically, Mario ruins the movie by just how bland he is. And he's not even like the star of the movie. He's always reacting to everything else going on around him. Like he lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, Toad tells him what to do. Then he meets Princess Peach, Peach tells him what to do. Then he goes up against Donkey Kong, and then Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong tell him what to do. And then the movie's over. There's never that moment where he steps up to be like, I'm the hero, except for the obligatory stuff that he would do in a video game, you know, where he gets power-ups and the superstar and all of that. There's not a point where he evolves as a character to be the hero or a leader. That's really frustrating. And that's what stopped me from getting into the movie, was just, I did not care about Mario. I cared much more about Princess Peach. I thought she was great. I thought Toad was a great character. Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong, surprisingly, was not terrible, but he's not in it that much. And we got to get into Jack Black's Bowser. I really like his performance. I don't know if he's accurate to Bowser, but Jack Black, he's very funny. He's got a very insecure side of Bowser and his love for Princess Peach, but he's also very menacing. He was enjoyable every time he's on screen. Unfortunately, he's not in the movie that much. We cut to him every now and then, but him and Mario don't even meet until like the very last instant, and they don't really have any sort of antagonism. Bowser just knows of Mario and wants to destroy him. Mario's heard of Bowser and wants to stop him, but there's nothing there. Luigi, he's not in it enough for me to be that worried, which is frustrating for me too, because I like Luigi a lot more than Mario. Not for any warranted reason other than just I always like side characters to main characters. Luigi, I think, is cool. I think he's relatable. I like Charlie Day, so I thought he was doing okay as Luigi. Again, he had the same sort of issue as Mario, where he does also seem a bit flat, but he gets captured early on in the movie, and then he does nothing for the movie. He stays captured the whole time. He's always going, Mario, come save me. And it's just such a waste of the character. You could argue Luigi has his hero moment at the end, but not really. It's too little too late for me, in my opinion. But because Luigi's hardly in it, because Luigi is an afterthought here, ironically, in a Super Mario Brothers movie, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, of the two Super Mario Brothers, one's barely in it, and the other just doesn't feel all that compelling as a character. So because of those issues, I felt every second of this movie, and I just couldn't get into it. I appreciate the references. I hope people who like Mario will enjoy them. But for regular going viewers who may only have passing knowledge of Mario, of just the party games, or are just looking for a good animated movie and don't really have that Mario knowledge, I don't think you're going to really get a lot out of this. I think you'll go, okay, yep, it's relatively fine. But it's not going to stick with you, I think. It's not going to hook you in that manner. I don't have any desire to watch it again. I probably will when I buy it on DVD, because I'm a madman and I hate myself. But I was just uninterested. You can throw as many references as you want at me. If there's no story there, no compelling story, and no compelling lead character, it doesn't work for me. Unfortunately, the Super Mario Brothers movie gets a 5 out of 10 from me. It's probably a little generous, but people who know my ranking system always know my rankings are ridiculous. I once said a movie was terrible and then gave it 7, I think. So it doesn't really matter. All you need to know, for me specifically, of all the movies I've seen this year, it's my least favorite. It's the one I was least excited to go home and talk about because I just didn't feel like I had much to say. Which is disappointing because of everything around this movie. I think you either wanted it to be surprisingly good, so you can gush about how good it is, or lean into the ridiculous voice casting and strange movie decisions. So you're like, this is strange and weird and you've got things to talk about. But it's just bland and it's fine and it's there. It just doesn't work for me. So that's it, unfortunately. I apologize to Mario fans if you see this and you like it. But I don't know. I've seen it before everybody else, so I have no one to compare it to yet. So if you are a big Mario fan and you've seen this movie, let me know. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of Mario as a character? What did you think of the story? Or were you just pleased that all the references were on par? That's one detriment. That's one positive I'll give to the movie, I suppose. The references are accurate, and it does look like whoever made this movie knew everything there is to know about Mario lore and put as much in there as possible. So, I would be very interested to hear what other people have to say about this. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. So for the next couple of weeks, I'll be coming up with just some regular, normal, standard episodes to tide us over until the new movies hit at the end of the month and the start of May. I've already bought my tickets for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm very excited for that. We've also got Peter Pan and Wendy dropping on Disney+, in the onslaught of Disney live-action remakes, which can either be fine or infuriate people. So I'll be excited to talk about that one. I'm always excited to talk about things. It's just afterwards whether I enjoyed them or not. That really emphasizes how the vibe of the episode's going to go. And unfortunately, Mario, surprisingly, just doesn't have much for me. I apologize for that. But I hope you found some entertainment in this one way or another. So until next week, I love and appreciate you all. As always, keep each other safe. Enjoy your Easter weekend. Enjoy those 4 days off. I hope you get up to some fun stuff. It's currently raining outside for me, so, good start. But I like the rain. I'll probably have a nap. Not that you needed to know that. All right, I'll catch you next time. Adios, muchachos.